I'd like to call the Monday, April 4, 2022 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with a pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Hilton?
Here.
Mrs. Turbin?
Here.
And do I have a report on our March 7 regular session, work session, and executive session, and our March 21 work session and executive session? Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have reviewed the minutes from all 5 of those meetings, and I found them to be correct and complete, and therefore I move that they be adopted as written.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So ordered. I'm used to looking both left and right. Now all I have to do is look to my left. We have a couple of citizen committee appointments to announce tonight. We have one property maintenance board reappointment, and each one of these are in various precincts. We have 8 separate precincts in in Oakwood, and we have 3 members that serve in each of those precincts. Judy Caruso has agreed to serve another term on the Property Maintenance Committee. And then we have 5 new members in various precincts. We have Dr. Gwen King, Sydney Beezer, Allison Davis, Amy Honecker, and Joni Haverstick. I would make a motion that we appoint those people to our Property Maintenance Board. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we now have just 1 opening on our BRC and 1 opening left on our property maintenance, and we'll be totally full with all our volunteer committees. So we're making much better progress this year than last year.
Yes.
Okay. Next, I have a proclamation. I actually have 2 proclamations, but the first one is recognizing April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas Care House is a children's advocacy center for children and families affected by abuse in Montgomery County, Ohio, and whereas Care House's mission is to provide a multidisciplinary team response to child abuse for the purpose of protecting and supporting children and their non-offending family members, holding offenders accountable, and educating the community. And whereas since opening in 1999, Care House has served over 11,500 child victims of abuse, and over 9,000 families have been affected by abuse in Montgomery County. Nearly 1,000 children were served by Care House in 2021, an average of 80 children a month. And whereas child abuse and neglect are a serious problem affecting every community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. Whereas communities must make every effort to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas in 2008, Prevent Child Abuse America started using pinwheels to signify a vision where all children are able to grow up in supportive families and communities. Pinwheels are a reminder of the role we all play in children's lives. And whereas throughout the month of April, the city will display pinwheels in Oakwood along Far Hills Avenue as an uplifting symbol of childhood and to represent our collective efforts to ensure the healthy development of children. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, hereby proclaim April 2022 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Oakwood. And we have Terry Jones, who would like to say a few words to council, and if you could come up to the dais and speak into the microphone, we welcome you. It does not bite.
A little too close.
There you go. Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Terry Jones, and I have lived and raised my children and now grandchildren in Oakwood for almost 40 years. I'm here tonight with Libby Nicholson, who is the director of Care House, to talk to you briefly about our Pinwheel campaign and to advocate for victims of child abuse and neglect. In 1982, I was a young, fresh-faced, and very naive new nurse beginning my career. My first job was in the emergency department in what was then Children's Medical Center and is now Dayton Children's Hospital. I was quickly educated and shocked at the presence of child abuse and neglect in not only poorer, less advantaged neighborhoods, but in places like Kettering, Oakwood, and Centerville, where I had not expected it. Fast forward to today, more than 1,000 children needed Care House in the last year. These children were the victims of abuse and neglect, and they needed our help for their medical, psychological, legal, and social services. But we know that those kids who made it to us were a small number compared to those who were victimized. Our mission is to prevent child abuse and neglect for all kids in our community. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, as you said. Awareness of the problem is the first step. Prevention of the problem starts with education and ends with every child being safe and protected. Our vision is of a world where all children grow up happy, healthy, and prepared to succeed in supportive families and communities. Pinwheels are a reminder that we all play a role in children's lives. To that end, starting April 1st, we are working with community partners to plant pinwheel gardens as symbols of hope and of the carefree existence that all children should experience. We got them all out yesterday. We had good intentions last week, but it was a little bit windy for a pinwheel. So they all went into the boulevards, private homes, schools, and the library, all within the last 24 hours or so. So look for them throughout our community and take a moment to reflect on their meaning. I would like to thank Carol Collins and Norb Klopsch for their help and support in allowing us to place our pinwheel gardens on city property. Anybody have any questions, concerns?
Any questions for Linda? Or Terry, I mean?
No. Libby is here as well if you have any brief questions. But
Okay. I know just the statistics that I read in my proclamation were pretty shocking to me.
Yeah.
I have also, though, heard anecdotally that over the last several years with COVID, that the incidences of child abuse and neglect have increased. Is that accurate?
yes, it is, because a lot of the kids were very dependent on schools for the teachers to figure out what was going on. The school was their support system. And for a lot of the kids, their nutrition comes from the schools. And while the schools did the best they could to keep track of the kids, it was really tough. It was really tough over the last 2 years. And some of the districts with financial issues especially had a hard time staying open. I mean, Oakwood was open most of the time, which as grandparent of kids in the school system, we were very happy about. But those schools were not open, and so the kids were kind of left to their own devices, and unfortunately in homes that were not always the safest. So that's very true.
Okay. So I do recall early on in 2020, I know the city met with our superintendent, Kyle Ramey, who's in the audience tonight, and he had indicated that I think we have over 100 families in Oakwood that need subsidized meals just in our
Right.
city, and they were just trying to figure out how are we going to ensure that those kids can continue to get nourishment during that shutdown period.
And I think they did a good job. I
Did
mean,
they?
but there are a lot of schools that don't have. My son-in-law works in a district where they lost so many kids, just couldn't find them.
Mhm.
They never signed on to online classes, and they just couldn't find them.
Wow.
So
Okay.
anyway.
Well, thank you for.
I do have a question.
Oh, go
Excuse me,
ahead,
sorry,
go ahead.
Terry. So the pinwheels look great, but I saw them mostly from the car. I mean, they're all over the place. They look wonderful. Is there, on the signs, is there information about, like, resources that somebody could look into, or?
I mean, if there's an issue in their
Yeah,
family?
yeah.
Actually, I don't believe there is, but if they look up Care House,
Okay.
it's really easy to find. Every time I have to call them, I have to look it up because I can't remember the phone number ever.
Okay,
But,
sure, got it.
yeah,
Thank you.
so there is.
And then is there a partner in terms of legal advocacy, like Legal Aid or the Volunteer Lawyers Project, as they do? Are you affiliated with Artemis at all, or?
That's Libby.
Funny you ask
Thank
that
you.
question, because this week we are in fact submitting a grant to solidify our collaboration with Artemis, the Legal Aid Society, and the Volunteer Lawyer Project for that very reason, that these families need wraparound services that can help beyond just the trauma that the child has suffered. So keep your fingers crossed that the powers that be in Montgomery County will approve the grant. But without that formal collaboration, we do work very closely with all of those organizations.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for asking.
Any other questions for that? Thank you for coming, and we appreciate that, and we're happy to support
Thank you so much for allowing us to put the pinwheels in.
Very good.
And thank Carol Collins for the shape of those beds, because boy, it was so easy to get those pinwheels in those flower beds. It was great. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Terry. I have another proclamation. It's recognizing the week of April 24, 2022 as Arbor Week. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and is observed in the state of Ohio on the last Friday in April. Whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, reduce heating and cooling cost, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Oakwood has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 40th consecutive year, and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, under the power vested in me, I, William D. Duncan, Mayor of the City of Oakwood, hereby proclaim the week of April 24, 2022 as Arbor Week in the City of Oakwood, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's urban forestry program. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Thank you for allowing me to read that. And I do believe that there is a statistic that there are more trees in the United States today than there were in 1492 when Columbus discovered. Well, it was the Caribbean, I think, is what he discovered, but you know, whatever. But that's an interesting statistic that I was unaware of at the time. So that concludes our status reports. We have several special visitors this evening, and our first one is it's time for our annual report for 2021 by the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition, and I believe Madeline Isley is here to address us. And she has addressed us in the past, but please state your name and address for the record one more time.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. I am Madeline Isley. It is a funny mic, you gotta say. That's okay. And I live at 38 Beverly Place. And it is indeed my honor to be here before you this evening, members of council as well, with my colleagues on the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition leadership team, as well as supporters in the audience this evening. We are here to share with you the first annual report of the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition, and Lori is my driver over here with the slides. Thank you, Lori. We'll go to the next one. You have at your places 3 documents. They are the first annual report with a little cover memo on the front. The next is a chronology of since the beginning of time as the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition knows it, with some important dates and the progress of discussions and how this organization developed and some important events. And I want to say a special thank you to Healy Jackson, who spent an incredible amount of time in researching, especially the chronology and also drafting the executive summary of the annual report. So thank you so much, Healy, for all the work that you put into that. And then the third document is something that we'll be sharing at our annual meeting, which is scheduled for April 13th at 7 o'clock at Wright Memorial Public Library. And that is our proposed outcome strategies. We're going to share some thoughts and some ideas with citizens of the community to get some feedback and see if what we're proposing makes sense, and then we'll take it from there. So let me this evening, if we can go to the next slide, just give you a overview of the first annual report, and it is in these topics. I'm just going to go ahead and go through them, and we'll start with, well, establishing administrative structures. So the leadership team got together, got organized, elected officers, and put some important structures in place, not the least of which is, of course, a website with which to communicate to the community. There were 2 committees that were developed, programs and events, that is chaired by Leanne Fulford, and Current Issues, which is a committee that I have chaired. Let's go to the next slide. Here you have before you the list of the current leadership team and the very important roles that they have all played. Let's go to the next slide. And, oh, that's funny. My slide graphic popped up on top of my title. That's okay. Engaging community participation. So one of the most important elements of the work of the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition over the last couple of years has been to get citizens together, to start talking about issues that are important to them, to start envisioning the future of Oakwood and where the community is going. We've had 2 public meetings with 200 participants. About 75 of those attended both of the meetings, so we've had good, consistent participation. We've had 2 big reads, and actually you see the book covers represented there, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, and The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. So both of these books, 2 very different topics, lots of really great discussion, and about 50 or 60 participants, again, consistently with those book reads. And then just in January of this year, about 70 of us traveled downtown to the Wright Dunbar Village, and we participated in the Martin Luther King Walk in Dayton. And that was a lot of fun, in spite of being very cold and snowy. Next slide, please. We've also, as part of our establishing administrative structures, been recognized now by the IRS with an official 501c3 nonprofit designation. Our treasurer has set up banking accounts, and we also now have a fund with the Dayton Foundation, making it easier for donors to make contributions. And that donate button is actually, that's a screenshot from our website where clicking the button will take you directly to the Dayton Foundation Fund site, and it's easy to make a gift through the Dayton Foundation. Many thanks to Dan Turbin, who has been working to raise money and who has also been successful at that effort. So modest funds as of the end of the calendar year, December 31, 2021, a little over $10,000 in the accounts. That's a great place to start. Let's go to the next slide. In terms of community impact, we've had a number of our leadership team participate in regional diversity, equity, and inclusion education and training efforts. That would include the National Coalition of Community and Justice Diversity 101 training, as well as the Miami Valley Environmental Justice Academy. Dan and others attended the Gem City Market opening and other events in the community. I was before you late last year on the unfortunate occasion of white supremacist messaging that was plastered, if I will say that, on the edge of our city. Many thanks to Chief Hill for investigating that incident, and you all know that those messages are clearly not what this community stands for, and so we wanted to stand with you in making that statement. And then again, as I said, participating in the Dayton Martin Luther King Jr. Walk. Next slide. We, as we continue to develop programs and plans for the coming years, we remain committed to nonpartisanship. We remain committed to creating connections for citizens to work together constructively and collaboratively to share our diverse thinking and to build a stronger community as a result of that. Next slide. So in the winter months, in December and January, we had the fortune of time donated by Kathy Hollingsworth. Many of you know Kathy. Kathy is just a tremendous facilitator, and she spent a few hours with us in December and January. And it was as a result of those facilitated conversations that we developed now the proposal for realizing outcomes. And that's the proposed outcome strategies is really what we'll be sharing at our annual meeting, and again, getting feedback from the community. All right, next slide. I just want to wrap up by expressing tremendous appreciation for our 3 official liaisons. Norbert has just been there every step of the way, helping to organize, especially the foundational documents, and clarify them. Kyle has been tremendously supportive. In fact, appreciate so much that he took time out of his very busy schedule to be with us here this evening. And Christy, my goodness, this last weekend, that poor woman, she was involved in so many events and activities just with the library, and her involvement, especially at this time in the history of the library, right? The whole renovation and rededication of that library just says a lot about the dedication, the commitment of these 3 institutions through those 3 liaisons. So thank you, Norbert, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Christy, for everything that you've done for the Oakwood Inclusion Coalition. And with that, again, can't thank the city enough for your support, for, again, being committed to making Oakwood as welcoming and open and inclusive as it possibly can be, and helping us to work on ways to make it even stronger for the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madeline, for your report. Does anybody have any questions for Madeline? We really appreciate all of your efforts, and I'm assuming these documents will be on your website
Yes,
soon
sir.
or shortly.
Absolutely.
And I know there's plenty of really nice meeting space now at the Wright Library to have your annual meeting. So I think that will be an exciting time to do that as well. So,
Indeed.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay. Our next special visitor is Azalea Beteau. Did I pronounce that properly? And Azalea is had a Girl Scout Gold Award project, and that is the equivalent of an Eagle Scout, is my understanding. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'd like for you to address council and tell us what your project was, because it was very interesting.
All right, I don't think I'm going to mess with this microphone. So.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Duncan, fellow city council members, Oakwood Safety Department, and all who are present. Thank you for inviting me to speak at tonight's meeting. It is a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Azalea Biteau, and I'm a senior at Oakwood High School. Oakwood has been my home for many years, and I have been involved in community affairs through different clubs and organizations. Ever since elementary school, I have been a Girl Scout in Troop 30149. My wonderful troop leader, Mrs. Hall, has led our troop throughout the years, and she has always supported me and the other girls. I'm happy to say that she is also present this evening. This past year, I have been working on my Gold Award, which pertains to this community. The goal of my Gold Award is to improve the safety of pedestrians and bikers in Oakwood. I have had many meetings with Mr. Bainhop, the principal of the junior high, and Lieutenant Belage of the Oakwood Police Department. I also met with Oakwood City Council, Mr. Stevens, to discuss my project and set it in motion. Then I corresponded with Chief Hill about my ideas, and we all began working together to make my project come to fruition, and it was recently completed. My project consisted of putting down paint in the pedestrian crossing at the intersection of Spirea and Shantz, and putting up no parking signs on both ends of the junior high. Those signs are important due to the high traffic volume in the morning before school and in the afternoon after school, and anytime there is an event at the junior high or high school. The signs and the pedestrian crossing paint will allow for a better and safer flow of traffic. There have been many close calls and actual accidents because drivers could not see the students. The pedestrian paint is a visual reminder for drivers and bikers and everyone else that people can be crossing at the intersection, and for them to stop and proceed with caution. The signs free up additional space near the stop signs so car drivers have a better view of the road and their surroundings. Thanks to my project, the likelihood of accidents will decrease as these visual reminders will assist people of all ages to remember to slow down, stop, and be more prudent, especially near the school. The placement of the crosswalk and signs will also remain throughout time, and I am happy to be part of this safety measure for current Oakwood citizens and for future generations. Thank you very much for giving me your time this evening to talk about my Gold Award.
Well, thank you very much. Since I live on Spirea and Hathaway, I'm very familiar with this location because I walk it a lot myself.
Yes. But
the thing that really makes me feel old is I remember her when she was about half the size. Now, you're going to graduate in June?
yes,
So we're going to get to see your face on on Schaefer Boulevard with
Yeah.
all the other students?
yes, and in the parade if
And
you're
in the
there.
parade? Okay, great. Have you thought about where you want to go to college?
Yeah, my top choice right now is Denison University, right
Uh-oh.
outside of Columbus.
Well, that's great. Congratulations, Joseph.
Thank you.
Who else has questions for Azalea? Anyone?
Great work. Really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we
Well done, Azalea.
appreciate that very much, and I know, we're going to have a Sister City celebration later on this summer, and hopefully you can attend that.
Thank you.
I know you were involved in that, I think, 5 years ago, probably, when we last did it, so, okay. Again, thank you very much, and we
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
And Tim, Tim Badenhoff, who's the Oakwood Junior High principal, you'll want to say a few words about Azalea and her project.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan and Council. Again, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to you for your cooperation, and to Chief Hill and the Safety Department, but especially to Azalea. 1,000 kids walk in our building every day, and obviously with my office overlooking Shantz Avenue, safety's a top concern and has been for a long time. So for somebody who is getting ready to go off to college during a pandemic last year, when she started planning to think about other people and their safety and how she could leave a legacy of safety for our community, I think just speaks volume about Azalea, who is here tonight with her family too. So thank you, Azalea, for your work. I know that I did really very little and she did a lot, and I really appreciate your help in making our building a safer place.
Well, very good.
Thank
Thank you for coming. I think that's really important that you came to support her, and it's just one more reason why, why is this the greatest community to live in the entire state of Ohio? It's just because of the commitment that our educators have for our kids, and so we appreciate you coming to share your thoughts with council.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So this is the time when, if anyone else wishes to address council, that they can come up to the dais and state their name and address for the record. And if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to stay for our great legislation that's coming up, you're welcome to stay for that. But if you, the game doesn't start for an hour and 15 minutes, so.
There's pre-gaming.
There's pre-game. Okay, well, that's what DVRs are for, correct? Okay. Again, thank you all for coming, and thank you. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Again, no one else wishes to address council, so we'll consider the visitors portion of the council meeting closed, since we're soon to have no visitors.
That's right. Oh, well.
Okay. Good to see you. Okay. So with that, we'll move to legislation, and Councilmember Stevens has an ordinance regarding street lighting.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. An ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio, by lighting the same with electricity. This is an annual ordinance that is the second step of our 2023 street lighting program. It is the ordinance that authorizes the city to proceed with the project. It was introduced with a first reading at our March 7th council meeting. This is the second reading of this ordinance, and I move that council adopt it this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin?
Yes.
And Councilmember Stevens has an additional ordinance regarding our lighting program.
An ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio, by lighting the same with electricity. This is the third and final step of our 2023 street lighting program. It allows for the costs of street lighting to be certified to the Montgomery County Auditor for assessment. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
Thank you. And I think you have yet a third ordinance regarding our sidewalk projects.
A resolution declaring the necessity of repairing sidewalks and appurtenances thereto on West Dixon Avenue and certain other streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio, providing that abutting property owners repair the same. This is an annual resolution that is the first step of our 2022 sidewalk curb and driveway apron project. This year's program will cover half of the city streets west of Far Hills. We are required by law to pass 3 pieces of legislation in order to carry out this program and assess the sidewalk costs. The first piece is this resolution, which declares the necessity of sidewalk repairs in these parts of the city. I will also be introducing the second piece, the ordinance to proceed for the project. After the project concludes, there will be a third piece of legislation, an ordinance to levy assessments for certain sidewalk costs. I move the council adopt this resolution.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mrs. Turbin?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Byington now has an ordinance.
No, I think Mr. Stevens.
Oh,
has
did I
one
miss
more.
one here?
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
I
you
have
did-
one more. That's all
you had
right.
4.
That's all right.
Okay.
Fourth and final one. An ordinance determining to proceed with the repairing of sidewalks and appurtenances thereto on certain streets between certain termini in the city of Oakwood, Ohio, and providing that abutting property owners repair the same. This is an annual ordinance that is the second step of our 2022 sidewalk curb and driveway apron project. This year's program will cover half of the city streets west of Far Hills. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
All right, thank you. And then Vice Mayor Byington, you have an ordinance?
Yes, this is an ordinance adopting the 2023 tax budget for the City of Oakwood, Ohio, for the fiscal year beginning January 2023. To comply with Section 6.01 of the City Charter, this is our annual housekeeping ordinance to estimate the city's revenues and expenses for calendar year 2023. This is also a first reading of this ordinance, so I'll make no motion at this time.
Thank you. And then you have a second and final ordinance.
Yes, this is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 4519 that created a special projects fund for purposes of increasing the upper limit on the amount of money which may be retained in the special projects fund, and to eliminate stipulations applicable to income earned on monies retained in the special projects fund. This is an ordinance to adjust the cap on money that can be held in the city's special project fund. Special project fund is an accounting fund used to set money aside for larger capital improvement projects planned for the future. Council last increased the cap on this fund in 2002 as a means of ensuring that the size of the fund was appropriate for the type of capital improvement projects for which it was to be used. For the last 20 years, the fund has been capped at $3 million. With costs continuing to rise and several large capital projects on the horizon, the finance director has recommended that we increase the cap to $5 million. Under existing rules, it takes an affirmative vote of 4 council members to authorize spending from this particular fund. And this is a first reading of this ordinance, so I make no motion at this time.
All right, thank you very much. We will deal with that and the ones that Rob had at our next meeting on May 2.
That's correct.
That concludes our legislation for this evening. We do have a staff report by our Director of Engineering and Public Works, Doug Spittler. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to come give you a quick and brief update on our Public Works Department, what we've been working on since the last time we talked in September, and what we're going to be working on through the summer. Yep. All right, starting with our 2022 asphalt street resurfacing program. We did bid the project. We had our 2 bidders. Barrett Paving was awarded our bid this year. We are going to do paving on West Shantz Avenue, Del Park Avenue, Beverly Place, Catherine Terrace, the public portion of Park Road, Little Woods Road. We have alleys that are in the eastern, kind of the southeastern part of the community. I did not list those. They are shown on the map in the blue on the lower right-hand side of the map. And the Krager Field parking lot, the dog park parking lot, will be resurfaced in its entirety. Our total estimated cost from the bids this year is $467,290. I did want to point out that we do have 2 asphalt materials that we use. Primarily, we use something called a low volume traffic LVT asphalt. That price increased 33% from last year. And our mix that we use on West Shantz Avenue, kind of the heavier mix, increased 10% from last year. So I think the costs that are certainly being seen through other communities, we're realizing here as well. And as Mr. Stevens and Council just approved some of the first readings for our annual sidewalk curb driveway apron program, we did have our bid opening last Thursday, March 31st. We did receive no bids. I believe that's something that has not happened in a long time. It's not uncommon. From what I understand, there was another local community and then one in Cincinnati that received no bids on a very similar project as well. We are contacting potential bidders. We have a potential bidder that submitted a quote to us today. We're working informally through our bidding process to secure a contractor for that. Our recycle center improvement. This is a recap of our recycle center that we opened. Grand opening was on last November the 30th, 2021. Having that facility in our parking lot at Public Works, I'm very, I shouldn't say shocked, but I guess I'm very surprised at how many folks do use that. I knew they used it a lot because I would drive by it, but since it's right out front, it's very obvious. It's very, very popular. And I think that was a great idea, moving that facility away from the dog park, because it's popular as well. That facility is available 24 hours per day, all year long. We do have a place for an area for yard debris, commingled recyclables, just like residents can drop in their own containers at home. We have a separate cardboard container, and then we do collect seasonal items. We have a styrofoam event coming up that we're working with Green Oakwood on, and we collected string lights again with Green Oakwood. The total cost of that project was approximately $380,000. We received a grant from Montgomery County Solid Waste District for the $72,000, or about 20% of that project. Here's an aerial photo of that project. There on the left is our laydown area for the yard debris. We don't have dumpsters anymore. It frees up a couple of dumpsters for us. It also allows a lot more material to be placed down. So on the left, the gate slides open. We can push that material right through onto our facility where we collect the material, and then it's hauled out by a vendor. The middle dumpster there is our commingled recycle, and the containers off to the right with the platform, that's our cardboard containers, which gets full every weekend. It's amazing. It was full again this morning. The continuation of our Center Point, formerly Vectron Gas Line Improvement Project, they are still here in town. They started in 2010. We anticipate them finishing up next year in 2023. They have 4 projects slated this year. This is the improvement of bare steel, cast iron gas lines in services, also moving gas meters to the outside of the home. So the project area A that they are already working in, if you've gone down Patterson Road in the last couple of weeks, you've seen them. That is a larger gas line. That's an 8-inch gas line. Most of their gas lines are 2 to 4 inch, but that's an excessively large gas line. That's one of the bigger gas lines that they'll put in Oakwood. But there's work on Patterson, Schaefer, Hathaway, Woodview, Oak Forest, East Thruston, Collingwood. And again, that work is underway, and they are starting to restore some areas, especially the soft surfaces. They still have hard surface restoration to complete. The challenging project for us will be working with them on the Far Hills improvement. So the entire length of Far Hills, basically south of Patterson Road, where they finished last year, all the way down to the South Corporation line at East, will be worked on this year as well. They have not started that work. We are trying to work with them to push that work as late as we can, at least until school's out. My understanding is they might start on the south end so they can kind of progress north if they need to get started a little sooner. But we're working with them to minimize impacts to the public, but we know that's obviously our highly traveled street through town. Another area is a little bit where we'll be doing our storm sewer project. This is a little bit in advance of that. It's in the Ridgeway, Woodstock, Devereaux, Harmon Avenue, Raleigh, Ashridge, 4 area. That work is pending still. And then I just saw within the last couple of weeks, they started doing some pre-marking. So they're out, they camera the storm sewers, the sanitary sewers, and they put marks all over the pavement. You've seen some of the green markings. That's their pre-work so that they avoid hitting those utilities. That work is on Oakwood Avenue, Briar Hill, Thornhill Road, and that project, again, will commence as soon as they get the work done in the northeast part and the utilities are all marked. So the additional projects that we do that are, a couple of these are maintenance projects and a couple of these are capital projects. Our annual pavement marking program, so this is the paint that we put down, or some, like on West Shantz, we'll put down the thicker thermoplastic markings with that project. We have traffic signal conflict monitor testing. That's just an internal componentry that we test to make sure our traffic signals are tested every year for proper operation. Our asphalt pavement rejuvenation, that's the layer that we put down over top of pavement that we've paved the last 2 years to give us a little extra life for our pavement. We have the Far Hills stormwater inlet repairs, so those catch basins where the water goes in the storm sewers, those will be repaired, as well as some curb on Far Hills Avenue in preparation for our paving program in 2024. Our Far Hills storm sewer reconstruction. We sent out letters, about 130 letters, about a month ago for advising folks that we'd be doing surveying. This is for the large storm sewer reconstruction project in the low part of Far Hills, right around the high school, also going over down Devereaux to the outlet. That project will be designed in 2023. We hope to bid in the fall and potentially begin construction, and then construction certainly into 2023. And then our Public Works storage facility, that's the pole barn that we're building behind Public Works. It's in the planning stages right now, actually pre-construction stage right now. We're just finalizing permits with the City of Kettering. We've got the contractor lined up to come in the 1st of May to get started, and our folks are doing some in-house clearing work in the back of our parking lot. So that'll go on the back of our facility where the large dog portion of the dog park, it'll abut that facility. I have 2 slides, whereas we usually only have 1 slide for capital equipment purchases. We have a lot of capital equipment purchases this year. Several of these are left over from last year, and the reason they're still here is unfortunately we still have not received delivery of those. So just like all that you're seeing, trucks and vehicles, some of those items are very hard to get. One of those being the refuse packer truck. So graciously, council allowed us last year to order that truck because we had a feeling that we would have long delivery time. So at least we're in the queue. We have seen pictures of the truck. It is alive. We don't know where it's at, but we hope to take delivery of that. We hope to taken delivery of that last fall, but unfortunately it's still out there being fabricated for us. We do have a dump truck, one of our large single axle dump trucks, on order as well. That was a 2021 order that we have not taken delivery of yet. And then some smaller pickup trucks. That was a funny one too. We had an order in last August, and then they told us our order was canceled. Now they've told us we can place orders again. So our fingers are crossed with some of this equipment. I'm not quite sure who to believe, but when they start rolling in, I guess we'll know that they're here. Sidewalk tractor. Some of these items we do have a lot more confidence in. They said the sidewalk tractors, there's production for those. So a sidewalk tractor that replaces one of our existing units. Pavement roller, again, just a planned replacement. Floor sweeper and a scrubber. The $40,000 may sound like a lot for that. What that is, if you've seen the little Zamboni type machines, they're a ride-on machine, kind of like they use in a parking garage. We have one of those for our Public Works facility. Gets a lot of use, and it needs to be rebuilt, actually replaced. So that's what that large expenditure is for. And then our front end loader, we have 3 of those in the city of Oakwood. We're planning on replacing one of those this year. We feel pretty confident those are available as well.
Am I correct that the numbers in white are the budget and the numbers in yellow are the actual?
Yes, thank you. I should have indicated that. That is correct.
That's okay.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes. Refuse scooters. So last year we took delivery of 4 units. We ordered an additional 2, and those are in service. So we are having very good luck with those scooters. The drivers seem to like them. They seem to be very reliable so far. So we have 6 of those total in service right now. We have a packer refurbishment. That is taking some parts that we have from our existing trucks and making a good backup. So we'll have the 2 brand new trucks, and we'll make a 3rd good backup truck out of what we have. A pickup truck is on order for our water staff. We have fence replacement around well number 6. That's behind our facility. Spring house overhead door, just planned replacements, but fairly large replacements. We have well house roof repairs to do. We did repair one last year because it was actively leaking a little bit in advance of what we had planned to do this year, but any roofs in our Furwood well field at Irving Field as well, we'll replace those roofs. We do have a backhoe that we have ordered. And have confidence that that will be an item that we can take a delivery of, and a leaf vacuum. So we would like to get a replacement leaf vacuum for this fall. So 2 pages of equipment, it's a lot. So I would say thank you. We're doing our best to take delivery of that. Prices are fair. Some we've been right on, some we've been a little under, and some we've been a little short on. So I think as we've planned here, I'm confident that we'll have the budget to get everything that we budgeted for. So we're looking forward to actually taking some delivery. Just to recap about our refuse and recycling program. One of the tenants that we have in our department, we do the weekly backdoor trash and recyclables collection. We have the yard debris and special pickups, leaf disposal, which is complete now, and now we have the leaf mulch. So starting this Saturday, we have the leaf mulch program. We can have delivery, or we allow pickup. Delivery has a slight charge to cover the delivery cost. It's for the next 5 Saturdays from 8 to 2. Folks may pick up mulch, residents may pick up mulch at our Public Works facility. It's free of charge if you pick it up yourself. It's a slight cost if you have it delivered. We also have self-service that you can do at our facility, the new recycle center that we talked about. We have our monthly self-dumping that we just had this past Saturday. The first Saturday of every month we have the self-dumping at Public Works. We also have refuse dumpsters available for special pickups. We have them available for green waste, and we also have dumpsters available for homeowner-type remodeling projects. I'd also like to advertise, and we have a new sign that advertises our styrofoam recycling event with Green Oakwood is April the 23rd. So Save Your Recycling. Green Oakwood collects that material at our facility and transports it to the county's facility or the county's event, which this next time is going to be at the Rose Music Center. We started this graph a couple of years ago just to look at our trends. The orange line on this graph is the 2020, so when the pandemic started, and I just find that fascinating that we have not had a higher year since then, and it just goes to show that folks were really staying at home and doing a lot of cleaning. I also think that blip in February is really interesting. I don't know why, but it's just everybody at the end of the holiday season tends to throw things out, and then February it comes down to a pretty concise point. So those 6 years, it's done that consistently. But I guess the more important thing is to do, we use this for trending to try to anticipate our budget. I know Norm sits on the committee, I think Mayor you do too, for the solid waste. There's a couple of committees with the solid waste policy board, and they've indicated that our price per ton is still $38.25 this year. So with the data that we use to graph this out, it's primarily so that we can make good budget decisions and budget appropriately. So with the disposal price remaining the same, we feel very confident that we can budget for those expenditures and the bigger purchases that we make in the capital. Likewise, on the recycling, we average around 614 tons per year. That price is not quite as stable, but it is unchanged so far. It's been about a year since they've changed any kind of pricing. That's $35 a ton to dispose of recyclables. This was a graph that we put together to look at potentially partnering with a vendor, and we did select Rumpke to take our clean cardboard. So the cardboard we collect at our recycle center, those 4 containers, 4+ containers, we take because that is very clean, separated cardboard. We take that to Rumpke where we do see market-based revenue on that. We just started in January of 2022. We don't have a real good trend. The market is, whatever the market is, we receive market price minus $30 per ton for their processing. 1 month it was, I think, as high as $145 per ton. So not a huge money-making revenue for us, but it does help offset some of those costs that we pay for the other commingled recyclables. So otherwise, it would be something that we would just give away, but it's a very good opportunity to see how it works. So we're excited to see how it works, and hopefully the market stays very productive for us this year. Also like to mention, with all the ways and opportunities that we have for folks to get rid of stuff, there are always those things that are hard to get rid of, and so how do you do that? That's the household hazardous waste. So your paints, your fertilizers, your propane tanks, batteries, vehicle fluids, all those things that are very hard to get rid of, we do get questions on how to get rid of it. So we have 2 ways. One is the Oakwood Rotary Club. As part of their service project, they collect household hazardous waste materials. Folks can call in to the number 937-296-5155, leave their material, what they have out in the Oakwood Rotary Club on 4 Saturdays a year. We'll come around and collect that material. It's free of charge. They do take donations to help with their service projects. The next event is on Saturday, April the 23rd. The other way that folks can do it for self-service is the Montgomery County Solid Waste District down at their facility on Increte Lane takes materials on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So residents can drop off those same materials. That's a self-service service for residents. So wrapping up with winter, I'm officially calling it, it's over. We're not going to have any more snow events. That's wishful thinking, I think, but I think they called for flurries maybe this week. But we had 13 weather events, and that's not through the year, that's through the season. So basically when we started last November, December, currently in our salt storage facility, we have about 700 tons. We will be purchasing some more salt before the end of our contract in July at the rate that we currently have, because it will be bid this year. We bid with a consortium of a lot of other communities. With the price of fuel, I think that would probably drive the cost more than the cost of the salt, because it seems like the last 2 years have been pretty average years, at least for us. So hopefully the price of salt is reasonable, but I believe the trucking will probably drive the cost. This year in the season, we used 639 tons compared to 822 tons last year. Our salt cost is right now right about $55 per ton. And like I said, that will rebid probably in June, July timeframe. So we'll have a good idea for our budget season coming up in the fall. And then lastly, we had some personnel changes. Unfortunately, we had the loss of Erwin Johnson, one of our longtime Packard drivers. He passed away at his home on November the 2nd. Erwin was a 35-year employee with the city of Oakwood. We welcome new employees, Adam Jones. He's a water plant technician. He works with Scott Loper and his team. He's started on October the 4th of last year. We recently brought Scott Gibbs. Scott worked for another local community. He's a general service worker working in our refuse, driving one of our scooters. He started on February the 28th. And most recently, we hired Greg Devers. Greg drove for a couple of the local waste service companies prior to coming here. He is a general service worker, also driving a scooter in our refuse department. He started on March the 7th. And with that, that's all I have, unless you have some further questions for me.
Thank you, Doug. Does anybody have any questions for Doug?
Yeah, Doug, a couple quick questions, just clarifications. The new storage facility at Public Works that you're working on, that'll be right behind the existing building, on the existing concrete, not penetrating into the dog park, right? The fence stays up?
The fence stays up. We have moved it to accommodate the building of that. We will pull it back once we're done. There is some part of that barn that goes into the grass a little bit, but primarily when it's done, the existing fence will be about a foot off of the edge of the building.
But it's real small, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I thought it was
Yeah.
going to stay, okay, but it's real
Yes.
minor, okay.
Yes, very minor.
And then when it comes to the yard waste and the cardboard, with the new facility, I'm assuming it allows for more flexibility, and I'm also going to assume you have that on scheduled, to empty it out
Yes.
certain days a week, but if it does get full, I mean, you definitely have the opportunity to empty it on a non-declared day, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I mean, 'cause
We
even
monitor that.
If the
Yes.
yard waste is full, now, could be really full in 3-4 weeks. but
Yes.
You have it on a regular basis, but you can pull it out at any time.
Anytime.
It's a lot more convenient, right?
Yes, absolutely. Every employee can see it coming in and out, and we know when it's full, and
Right.
we like to keep it, except for Mondays, we like to keep it in a very good condition, and like I said, it's very easy for us to see in and out every day.
Right, excellent. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
It is now time for our Oakwood moment, and Councilmember Stevens is introducing that tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. Okay. Tonight, we're going to highlight our public athletic and recreational facilities. Just kind of talk about what we have in the city and what is available for everyone to use. First off here, we'll start with Old Faithful, I like to call it, Gardner Pool. It's been around for decades, and I'll classify it as a private pool, but there's memberships available to all residents of Oakwood, and just by calling the OCC, you can get a membership to the Gardner Pool. Obviously only open in the summer months. Another gem in Oakwood we have, and then this is also something that, this is a private tennis club, and you can join this by calling the OCC, is Hollinger Memorial Tennis Center. This wonderful facility has been around a long time as well, and it has 7 clay courts. They offer lessons and casual play. They do host a few small tournaments, and it's a great way to get into tennis without having busy courts all the time like our public concrete courts can be. Shifting over to some of our wildlife areas for just hiking, and being outdoors, recreational activities. We've got multiple gardens. This shows 3 of them: Loy Garden, Elizabeth Gardens, and Francine's Garden. These are all on the west side. And they've been, they are allowed to grow. However, we do have staff that does go in and, clean them up, create paths, try to make it look as natural as possible, but you can really walk through these paths and get a nice workout. Next one is one that almost everyone in Oakwood is familiar with, and you can see the path there in the middle. That's something that we've created. Friendship Park at Houck Stream. This one is beautiful to walk through for obvious reasons, and unfortunately these pictures were taken recently, so they're not in full bloom, but they are beautiful wildlife areas that we have here in Oakwood. Next, we've got our public tennis facilities. We've got the 5 new courts at Schaefer Park, right there next to the OCC and Gardner Pool, with the new parking lot, so it's much easier to get in and out of there. And then we also have 2 courts at Orchardly Park. And one of the courts will be converted into 2 pickleball courts this spring. So that project is in the works right now. As far as that's just another project we're waiting on for a little better weather. It'll be the, get that down there, that'll be the north court. Yes, the north court will be converted into 2 pickleball courts. So we're excited to see that. It'll be our first go at pickleball. As a city, and we'll see where that takes us, see what the participation is, whether we, do anything else to, add courts or just stay with those 2. Next would be our public basketball courts. We've got a half court there on the right over at Schaefer Park, and then we've got the full court, which is right there in the middle at Orchardly Park, with all of them have new backboards and baskets. And then the guy on the left, I literally took that picture myself last week, and he did make that free throw. So I yelled at him after he made it. It was just me and him out there. He's shooting by himself, and I said, "Attaboy," and he looked at me like, "Who are you taking my picture?" So, but no, it's wonderful courts we have there that are used quite often. And then finally, our athletic fields. We've got the 2 on the outside there are Lane Stadium and McCummins Stadium, and they are, they're operated by the schools, but I included them here because they are open to the public. So they both have tracks you can use. They both have now McCummins. It's not endorsed, and you're not really welcome to get on McCummins Field because they try to keep it in such good shape for the upcoming football season, but the practice field over there you can use if it's not being used by one of the school teams. And then, of course, Lane Stadium is the same way. You can use that field if it's not being used, but the problem with that is it is used quite a bit during the seasons. And then in the middle, we have Old River, which is, I don't even remember what it's converted to, maybe 12 fields now of all different sizes. That's a guess. Don't hold me to that. 12 soccer fields, full regulation fields, smaller fields for the younger children. And that is open at all times, too, if you want to go down and, kick around a ball or throw a baseball, whatever you want to do. So, it's just a quick recap of what we have in our city available to all of our residents that you don't need to. The only 2 in that whole group that you would need to join would be Gardner Pool and Hollinger Tennis Courts. The rest of them are free to the public. So, any questions on any of those facilities, you can always reach out to the OCC and their staff, and we encourage everyone to stay active and healthy. Thank you.
That was a great report. Thank you very much. It is now time for our city manager's report. Can you top that?
No, I can't. And when is tip-off again?
9:10.
Okay. A few quick things. First, I want to thank Doug for his report, and you all know I have a particular fondness for the Engineering and Public Works Department here in Oakwood, for good reason. And every time I watch a thorough, detailed presentation like that, I'm reminded how much we do here in a relatively small city. And 2.2 square miles and about 10,000 people crammed into the pretty small area. But importantly, we're pretty much full service. The only public service we don't provide is wastewater treatment. And I think if we had had a river that passed right through Oakwood, we probably would have built a wastewater treatment plant years ago. But we do contract with the county and with the city of Dayton for that. But other than that, we pretty much do it all in-house, and there's a lot going on every day in that department, as Doug knows well.
And we do it outstandingly well.
I agree.
Yes.
Yep. So, 4 quick things. The first one was given to me by Carol Collins this morning, and it's about the perennial sale. And if I can attest to you all that the annual perennial sale, that Friday afternoon and Saturday in April every year, is the highlight of Carol's year. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, she thinks about it from the moment the previous year one ends until the next one starts, and puts a lot of time and effort into it, and it's a wonderful community event. And so she wanted me to be sure to mention that this year's sale, and we didn't do one last year because of COVID, is Friday, April 22nd from 3 to 8 p.m. at the OCC. The great room will be packed full of various plant materials. I guess I should read these. Over 100 varieties of plants will be available, including perennials, wildflowers, natives, annuals, and hanging baskets. And if you go to our website, you can find a list of all the different items that will be available. All of them are planted or are grown here locally within 100 miles of Oakwood. And the Saturday event is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So pretty much most of the day on Saturday. So a real neat event, and I want to make sure to remind people of that. There was a note in the Dayton Daily News the other day about our email address change, and I think that probably will be in the Oakwood Register this week. But for many, many years, we used I'll use myself as an example, last name Klopsch at oakwood.oh for ohio.us for the United States. And we changed it because our website is Oakwood ohio.gov. And we thought, well, for folks to remember this, why don't we make our emails the same way? So now all of our emails are the last name at oakwoodohio.gov, just like our website. Now, Cindy Stafford, who oversees our IT work here at the city, assures me that for a long time in the future now, people using the old address, well, the emails will get to where they need to go. They'll just simply be forwarded behind the scenes. But to the extent that folks can start to remember that new email address, we would like them to do that. One thing that Doug didn't mention is the fire hydrant flushing, which we do that every year, and it's always done in the month of April. And we start in one part of the city and we work our way around, and we basically open every fire hydrant, we flush the lines, kind of clear the water a bit, and importantly, it's an opportunity to test the fire hydrant so that when Chief Hill and his department needs it, it'll be functional. So that started today, and it'll continue through the rest of April. And if you want to see when your neighborhood will be flushed, again, the website has a list there for that. And then the last thing is the annual report, and you know how I feel about this.
That's your perennial sale.
This is my perennial sale, and I mean, transparency at its finest, I would argue, in that there's an enormous amount of information here, 32 pages worth. The font gets kind of small in certain places, but we do that because we want to put as much information in here as we can. And the good thing about it is it's something that you can leave on a coffee table and pick up and look at for a few minutes today, and then pick it up a month from now and flip through it. And I would encourage all residents to look at it. It was delivered last week to every residential and business property in Oakwood via the U.S. Postal Service. So.
And there's a brand new picture of our city manager in there.
And there's an updated picture of yours truly in there.
You get better looking every year, Norm.
Thank you. And it's also available on the website if you prefer to look at it online.
Right,
So
great.
that's all I have.
All right, any questions for our city manager? All right, then it's time for council comments. Councilmember Turbin.
Well, Norb mentioned the perennial sale, and he said if you go online, you can get a listing of all of the flowers, but it's more than that. I mean, I love this. You go on, and there are 2 PDFs, and one's perennial listing, sun and shade, and it gives you a complete list, those that are in sun, those that are in shade, those that like the other. But the best part is there are these little icons. Like there's a little bird, and if there's a bird next to that particular flower attracts birds, butterflies, hummingbirds, and even if it's deer resistant. But the best part to me, if it has a little green leaf, then it's a native plant. And so this is all really good information, and it's all available on the website.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Hilton.
Yes, Your Honor. I just have one thing. There is a May 3rd election, and we had, at our February meeting, we had the director of the Montgomery County Board of Elections, and he explained the reason for the precinct changes, or we have a new precinct. Anyway, it all makes sense. It starts with the census, and they try to sort of break it up population based on population, but there are a lot of changes in where people vote. So I just encourage people to look it up. I mean, like for example, I live right next door, and my voting location was here, and now it's over there. And then people who live on the Wisteria, now they're anyway. It's not inconvenient, but it's not obvious. So I encourage people to look it up before you go. And there's always, if you're interested in this kind of thing, some people aren't, but absentee ballot is another way to go. You have about 2.5 weeks to get your ballot. You can, just like everything in your voter record, you can track it. It'll say when they got your application, when they processed it, when they sent you your thing, when they got it. So that is another option. And if you get in the Dayton Daily News, the inside the front page is actually the application if you want to send it in.
And the Board of Elections website is very user-friendly.
It's very good.
Very
yeah.
user-friendly.
Yeah, and Lori has put some really useful links on our website. So, for example, the precinct map that's new is there, and then it shows where your voting location is. So.
All right.
I thought the Board of Elections was going to send out postcards, too, to anyone whose precinct was changing.
I believe that's the
I haven't
case,
gotten one.
but I haven't received one either.
No, I read that in the newspaper.
It is still unclear whether we're having a May 3rd primary, whether it's going to be postponed, but as of today, we're still having a May 3rd primary. But it's in the courts. So.
Well, I heard there were going to be 2.
That was the latest that I saw as well, which makes no sense, but it is what it is.
Well, so anyway, postcards notwithstanding, figure out where you're supposed to vote if you want to.
Go on the website and save a stamp, right? I agree. Okay. Councilmember Stevens.
No comments this evening.
All right. Vice Mayor Byington.
I just wanted to mention that, for Christmas, I bought my mom a tablet, and I was at home this last week. I spent a week with her, and she's still learning how to use it, but she asked whether she could watch a city council meeting. So this will be the very first one she's watching, so I want to say, hi, Mom. I love you very much.
Is she in San Antonio?
She is in San Antonio,
Okay.
watching from home.
And the vice mayor is one of the best council members I've ever had the opportunity to work with, Mom. So just give you a thumbs
That's
up
right.
for your.
One of her favorite sayings is, behind every successful child is two amazed parents.
Very good. Okay. And my only comment is I wanted to, this was in the paper today as well, Norman Maine, who's the chairman and chief executive officer of Dorothy Lane Market, has been given an award by the Food Marketing Institute. He was one of 6 grocery industry execs that was honored. He is the recipient of the Sidney R. Rabb Award for Statesmanship, one of the highest awards in the grocery industry. And the award recognizes a food leader for serving the consumer, community, and food industry. Rabb, who the award is named after, was a role model for statesmanship and community service, recognizing the industry's higher purpose in serving society. Previous honorees included David Dillon of the Kroger Company, based in Cincinnati, and Frederick Meyer of Meyer, Inc. For many years, Maine has worked with his father, Calvin D. Maine, who co-founded the family business at a fruit stand in 1948, as well as his mother, Vera Jane Maine, who oversaw the company as president for many years. The family business continues today as an independent operator with nearly 1,000 employees in their Oakwood, Centerville, and Springboro location, and I believe they're in the process of going to Mason. So congratulations to Norman Maine and all the staff. One of the reasons Oakwood is the premier community in the entire state of Ohio has to do with Dorothy Lane Market. It's a great place to go shop, and the service there is unbelievable, and congratulations again. Our next meeting is Monday, May 2nd, 2022. We are adjourned.